listening to Skywave Radio. This is Digging the Dirt, the Allotment Show with Russ and Jake. You're listening to Digging the Dirt, the Allotment Show, so I'd better introduce Jake, my partner in our show here. Are you there, Jake?
Hi, Russ. I'm here, loud and clear.
Very good. Jake, now, as it's our first show, and people haven't a clue who we are, where we're gardening, what we're up to, how we got into it, we'd better start off with a little introduction about how you got into gardening, what you do for a living, and of course where you garden as well.
Oh, right, yes. I got into gardening because I got a teaching job in Derby, moved to a house just outside Derby in a little village called Bredsall, and it had rather a large garden. So being a complete novice at the time, I thought, I better learn what to do here. So read lots of books and just got started that way. As I said, I'm a teacher. I work at a school in Nottingham. I teach horticulture as well as design and technology and food technology. So we grow and we cook the food.
I didn't know you did horticulture.
Yeah, I love it.
That's great. Excellent.
Fabulous.
Yeah, so there's a good link there to your day job then, really.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. And who do you teach then?
I teach at a special school in Nottingham, but we have from September we'll be having groups of students from other schools coming in as well to do workshops, gardening, growing veg, sowing seeds, the whole shebang really.
Oh, fantastic! So I guess that must be quite a demanding job as well, really.
Stops me getting bored, let's put it that way. So how did you get into gardening, Russ?
Well, I've dabbled with it, Jake, for a long time, really. My earliest memory, actually, is planting onion sets with me dad in our back garden in Shrewsbury when I was a nipper, and that's how I started, really. And I think my first couple of houses didn't really have a garden, so and that's of course the problem these days, isn't it? Really. And but moved up north about 1991, something like that. And funny enough, I work in the food industry. You see, and work with some big growers as well. But having seen how a lot of food is manufactured, and the things that happen in the food manufacturing sector, I thought. Let's have a go at growing as much as I can, really. So
fabulous idea.
Yeah. So I've had in fact, my wife Sharon, I took over her mum and dad's, my mum and father-in-law's back garden. It was turfed beautifully. And I went along one day and dug it all up, and I
bet you were popular.
I was. Yeah. Well, they used the veg every now and again, but that was before I got an allotment.
Yes.
And on the allotment list for a number of years, as you are these days, But stuck it out really, and I'm just dead lucky. I've got an allotment about 30 paces from my front door, so
that's
ever so lucky,
handy.
really. It is, yeah. So you've got an allotment as well now. So you said you had a garden or a big garden in a previous house, but you've moved since then. Is that right?
Yes. When I got a job in Nottingham, I moved to a different village in Derbyshire, and I've got an allotment. Well, we've got 3 plots at the moment at Somercotes allotment, Birchwood Lane site in Somercotes. It's a lovely place to garden.
Oh, terrific! Yes.
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of people have to wait a long time to get a plot, whereas I was really quite lucky because I first went to the council to apply for one, heard nothing back, and then I read advice on the internet to just go around sites and see if there's any available, which is what I did.
Yes.
And the secretary showed me a plot that was about 6 foot high in weeds.
Right. So they saw you come in.
Absolutely. It was hard work clearing it, but good exercise.
Well, yeah, it's better than a gym subscription, isn't it? Really,
definitely.
That's what I always think.
Get food as well.
Yeah, and I did something similar. Really, I was on the list for Shevington allotments where I live, and I knew it was going to be a long wait, and I just used to pop down and have a walk up and down and see what was going on, and you can see the few odd empty plots there, but
Yeah.
people still kind of tend to hang on to them, don't they? Really, even if you're
Yeah,
not
they
sort of
do,
doing
which
anything.
is a shame.
Yeah, and then a fella said, "Do you want a part of my allotment?" So he gave me,
Bill.
I don't know, it must have been about 5 square meters, something
Yeah.
like that, And
Yeah.
so for about 2 years, I think, I had that little patch there, which is great, and it's surprising what you can grow in a little patch.
Definitely, yeah.
Like that, and then a few years later, up it came, and got me double plot and everything. So
Wonderful.
never looked back. So that must be now. We've been living here about 11 years, I think, 11 to 12 years. So that must have been about 8 years ago, something like that.
Right.
Got me allotment.
Yeah.
So and it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, I love the way. Yeah, I love the community feel as well on an allotment, where you can learn from the people that have been there for years. Sometimes learn what not to do as well as what to do.
It is, yeah. And we're just off the sort of main block of allotments where I am, and so there's only 1, 2, 3, 4. There's only about 4 or 5 of us, I think, in my little section. But we've got a ex-policeman there, a chap that used to be in the army, an ex-miner there, and all with stories to tell, of course. And some are passionate. There's one fella there that keeps a diary of absolutely everything he grows, the yield he gets from it, the works,
Wow, that's dedication.
It is, and I think he's had a plot there for well in excess of 20 odd years,
Yeah.
And it's great that the knowledge that these people have.
Definitely,
Really.
yeah.
So we're only beginners, Jake, aren't we?
Yes.
Really, in this business.
Whippersnappers.
Yeah. So you're down sort of Derbyshire way, is that right?
Yeah. Originally from Sheffield, but in not far from the top of the A38.
Okay, yeah. And I'm up here in Lancashire, from Shropshire originally. So I moved up here in the early 1990s. So I
Lovely
think
part
that's
of the world.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's beautiful there. Yes. Yeah. So I think that's enough. Isn't it, Jake, about us and where we come from and what we're doing? So I think in future programs, we'll just be sort of talking about what has happened in the previous month. But as this is our first one, we can talk about what we've been doing perhaps over the winter months, really. So what's been going on your plots down there in Derbyshire?
Well, I've had most of the beds covered to prevent weeds growing. Obviously cutting back things like fruit trees, raspberry canes, blackberries, the usual pruning, making lots of compost, which is the engine room of the garden, really.
Absolutely,
isn't it?
yeah.
Lifting, dividing, chitting potatoes, sowing beans. What sort of things have you been up to, Russell?
Well, there's one thing there, Jake, that you haven't mentioned, which somebody told me about, you see, and I think that is you chasing your polytunnel over the Derbyshire Dales. Is that right?
Yeah.
See, you didn't mention that.
Gareth has got a lot to answer for.
So what happened there then with your polytunnel?
Well, it stood its ground. It's quite an open site, but it stood its ground for 3 years. And we were wondering this year whether to buy a new cover because it was starting to tear a bit in certain places. But the decision was made for us by Storm Gareth.
Was it? Yeah. And that was it. It took off, did it? All parts of it?
It certainly did. It flew over to Kansas.
Oh, did it?
We're not in Kansas anymore. Hey, Toto.
Nice one. Nice. So, have you got a new one, or are you getting a new polytunnel, or what's the?
The frame's fine. So I've got a new cover that I'm going to put on over the Easter holidays when the weather's calmed down totally.
Yeah. So make sure it's stretched over tight and buttoned down and.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now I haven't got a polytunnel actually.
Right.
I need to make some inquiries. I don't actually know whether we can have polytunnels on our allotment because no one's got any at all, which is a bit of a clue there, I suppose. But we've got greenhouses and whatever, but there's not a polytunnel to be seen. Not the big ones I'm talking about, the walk-in ones. So,
mine's about
but I'd love
6
one of
meters
those.
by 3.
Yeah. And do you grow stuff through the winter then there or not?
Not particularly. I would grow winter salads, but I don't tend to eat that much salad during the winter. But in the summer, over the last few years, I've been growing melons as well as tomatoes, cucumbers, the usual fare for greenhouses.
Excellent. And the melons, I mean, how did that? I've never tried growing melons, so did that work out?
They've been absolutely fantastic. I saw Monty have a few unsuccessful tries on Gardener's World, and I thought, I'm going to have a go at that. Yeah. And they've been absolutely they're delicious.
I was going to say the flavour must be great, like everything that you grow yourself, isn't it, really?
Definitely. The flavour is one of the main reasons for doing it, as well as how it's grown and what's gone into it.
Yeah, exactly. So how many did you manage to grow then?
Probably about 15.
Right, and how many plants was that?
There were a couple per plant generally.
Right.
Once you get beyond 2, the advice is to kind of pinch out the others so it can concentrate the energy into 1 or 2 fruits. A bit like squash, that sort of thing.
Yes, yeah. So you're going to try them again this year?
Definitely, yeah.
That's good.
The flavour's just mind-blowing. So sweet.
My mouth is watering, Jake, now, as you mentioned that. So that's, I've never tried growing them, you see. So,
right, yes.
The trouble is, I've only got a relatively small greenhouse, so 8 by 4. And I just wonder whether I've got the room to try any or not. But you never know, I might do. Yeah. And when do you set the seeds off for that then?
I'll be sowing them over the coming month. Similar sort of time to other tender seeds that you would sow.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. You know what? I might give that a go. So
excellent.
So your compost, you say you've been sorting out your compost?
Oh, yeah. I've got quite a lot of compost bays, and like a lot of people do on allotment sites, my bays are made out of old pallets.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's funny, I was looking at my I got three compost bins there, and they really want a good sort out, really. Well, certainly one of them does. And I was just thinking whether it's a little bit early for hedgehogs and things like that, but maybe it isn't now. We've had a warm spell, haven't we?
Yeah, we have,
So it's probably all right, I guess, now, isn't it, to tackle that? I'm just putting it off, that's all. So there you go. So you've been busy then over the winter, as well as chasing your polytunnel all over the place. I think with me, again, I've just been tidying up as per normal, really. I'm just working my way through digging the raised beds there. So I'm about 3/4 the way through, I think, now. Started off some garlic. And onions and red onions. Now, I kicked those off in modules. I don't know, do you put yours straight in the ground? Or?
Last year I did them in modules. This year I didn't get round to it, so I'm going to put them straight in this year, but I'm going to be very careful not to damage the root plate at the bottom.
Yes. Yeah.
Because some people just shove them in the ground and then wonder why they don't swell up.
That's right. And you've got to just watch with birds a bit, don't you, as well? They don't...
They pull them out,
Yeah, but I start quite a lot of stuff off, as much as I can in modules, really, just to give it a good head start, and then in they go. So, garlic, onions, red onions. I've got broad beans in pots, so I'm just trying Bunyard's exhibition this year. So see how we get on those. Some mixed salad.
Excellent.
The seedlings just come out there. I put some leeks in the other day, Musselburgh, the good old favourite.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm cropping the last year's at the moment, and they're fantastic with the Sunday roast.
Yeah, I've got about, 15 or 20 left from last year, and they look and they taste great still.
Oh, they do. And they fill the gap as well when the onions run out.
Exactly, yeah. That's right. So what else have I put in? Carrots. Yeah. Now, I can't grow... This is an odd one. In my raised beds, my carrots, don't like it. I don't know what it is. So I have to grow them in pots there.
Right,
And I've never had any luck growing carrots direct in the soil. So I get these long kind of troughs, quite deep troughs there.
Yeah.
Get some nice fine compost and in they go, and they're fine with that. So I've just, this last month, set those, and little seedlings are coming up already there. So, but I don't know what it is. It just doesn't like the soil. I don't know why.
Yeah, could well be. Yeah. Plus, as well, if you've got them in pots, then they may be above the flight of the carrot fly, which is about 18 inches, I believe.
That's right. It's pretty low, isn't it? So it might just be something like that. So so we've done that. Done a bit of pruning, like you said, as well. So apple trees, pear tree, and gooseberry as well. So I just pruned that and opened it out a little bit last week. I did that and picked the first rhubarb as well.
Delicious.
So, and it's a very, I don't know what variety it was. See, the great thing, of course, isn't it, on the allotment, you get given stuff, don't you?
Yeah, so, you never know what variety it is.
And you don't, no. And I was given these, a couple of rhubarb crowns, and they're really, really early, February, and they're just about bursting into life,
Wow, so, I wonder if there's something like timpani early, something like that.
I don't know, and very slender. As well, and beautiful they are. So so they're coming up. So we'll be harvesting them probably this week, really. Wonderful. And of course, it's the old greenhouse had to have its annual wash and scrub up as well.
Yeah, make sure you get as much light in there as possible.
But I think what caused a problem last time, I had blinking slugs in me greenhouse. So my seedlings got so far, and then they were just wiped out, just like that. Yeah. And they're just lurking, aren't they, under pots
they're awful.
And whatever. So I thought I'm not going to get caught out with that.
Good
again
plan.
There. So and then, so where do you set your seeds off then, Jake? In the greenhouse or at home?
Bedroom 3. There's a double bed in bedroom 3, and it's covered with a tarpaulin, and that is just completely covered with seed trays. Yeah.
And what does your wife think about that?
Well, she don't mind that so much, but by next month they'll completely cover the dining table for about a month, which annoys her a little bit. Yeah.
Well, we got the same thing here. We just knocked out our kitchen and dining room. So it's like a building site at home, and it's in the dining room. Usually I have my propagator and everything else because it's a nice big window and plenty of light there.
Definitely.
But it's full of builder's rubble at the moment. All that, I was thinking, what shall I do? Yes, shall I grow them from seed this year? But I just love doing that. It's a bit of a challenge growing from seed. Yeah. And still a thrill, isn't it, really?
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, no, I've got to. So I just moved them all to the front room. So so Sharon's doing a nut, really. So I've got this great big propagator in mid-view in the front room there. But it won't be there for long. So so we've got tomatoes in there, just popping up now. Courgette, cucumbers. As well, and I thought I'd try something different. I've got these little baby cucumbers. Don't know whether you've grown those before. Beth Alpha.
I tend to grow the baby ones. Yeah.
Oh, do you? Right. I've never tried them before. So but the seedlings popped up dead quick and dead strong, kind of looking. Brilliant. So so we'll see how those go as we get a bit further on into the season. Really.
What variety did you say they were again?
Beth Alpha.
Right.
Beth Alpha. I don't know if you've come across those.
I think I'll give those a try.
No, they look great, and the seedlings look dead strong. Really good. So, but that's the thing. I'm a bit conservative, really. I tend to stick to the old traditional kind of varieties, you know what I mean? But occasionally I'll go off on one and go a bit wild like that and try something new. So
well, there's usually a reason why certain seeds have been used over and over again for years. It's because they're good quality.
Well, you're going to get good crop, aren't you? Really, out of those.
Definitely.
So I think that's kind of what we're up to at the moment, and so I thought we'd have a little news feature in this in this little show, and
Yeah.
just from time to time. And remember, this is a Brexit-free area, Jake. Okay.
Excellent.
So one of the few programs that is, I think,
Yeah.
at the moment. And something that I found was this issue about slug pellets. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you use them, Jake? Do you use anything like that at all?
I use organic slug pellets,
Yeah.
but very, very sparingly. Only when plants are very young and tender.
Yes.
But I generally try to avoid them.
Yeah, I'm a plastic cup and a bit of beer man myself.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a drop for the slugs and a drop for me down on the
Excellent.
allotment, and there's nothing better than that when I stagger home.
That's perfect.
Jake, at the end of
you
our-
haven't got far to stagger either.
Well, I
have
haven't
you?
actually. It's a good job, isn't it, really? But back to the old slug pellets. So, DEFRA, just before Christmas, they announced this metaldehyde type slug pellets are going to be banned from most uses, I think, and that includes home use or domestic use as well. So I think the long and short of it is it won't be on sale in any shops from about June, I think, this year. I think it can be used for commercial growers if it's enclosed, like in the big glass houses that you see.
Yeah.
But certainly outside and domestic use, that's going to be it. So you won't be able to buy it from June this year. It'll be illegal to sell it as well. And I think 2020 it's banned, apart from some commercial uses across the board. So, and a good thing. I don't know about yourself, but a good thing, I think for
that's
wildlife.
fantastic.
And things like that.
Yeah.
So, now, I think you were telling me something about hedgehogs. Was that right? And your allotment? What was that?
Yeah, there's a few of us on the committee would like to get hedgehogs from a local sanctuary on the allotment.
Yeah.
One, because it conserves wildlife and improves the ecosystem.
Yes.
And two, they eat slugs and snails.
Exactly, yeah. So it's like a natural
Yeah.
kind of resource, isn't it? There,
Yeah,
really?
so we had a very heated debate about slug pellets at our last
did you?
general meeting.
Yeah.
Very heated. Some of the more traditional gardeners, shall we say, were rather angry at the thought of not being able to use slug pellets. But I think this news has answered the question for them. And I think
I wonder if they realised this was coming in.
Good point.
Maybe they didn't, you see. Maybe they didn't. So they won't have a choice, will they, really?
No.
I mean, there's other products there.
Yeah.
And I was just reading, there's another product, and it's based on ferric phosphate, I think.
Yeah.
I've got that right, which is like an alternative use that supposedly doesn't harm wildlife. But again, I think they found that there's problems with that and the populations of worms, earthworms.
Right, yeah.
If it's
Our
used,
best friend.
if it's used in too much, too high a quantity, which some people do, they just chuck it down in handfuls, don't they? So that's probably equally as bad as the metaldehyde type, really, because you don't want to damage the worms on your plot or anything like that, do you? So that's an interesting one. So so you can go back to your committee then, Jake, and say it's going to be banned anyway. So
I've put it on the agenda for the meeting on Monday night, and I'm looking forward to seeing a few of the faces.
There you go. Yeah. Well, for details of that ban, if you go to the RHS website, I think they've got a news page and whatever there, and you'll see all about that slug pellet ban. So print a few copies off and say, look, it's not you saying all this thing. It's going to be legislation, really. Brilliant. So and get your hedgehogs on the plot. We need to look after them.
I think the more we work with nature rather than against it, the better, really.
It is. Yeah. A couple of years ago, talking about that, I had great big holes appearing on the allotment, and I thought, what on earth is that? You know, they were about this. Well, I say big holes. They were the size of a medicine ball, really.
Right. Yeah.
And they just appear overnight. So I've got one of these, what are they called? Camera traps. You know, these automatic cameras for wildlife. So I set one of those up, and it was a fox, of course, having a dig about on the plot. And I think it liked the camera because it sat directly in front of the camera, just sat up, a great big yawn, and then off it trotted, and then and it would visit from time and time, you know, again, but I haven't seen it for a long time now. So, but you know, they don't do any harm, do they? Really?
No,
so,
no, not at all.
Yeah. So let's look after our wildlife. Now, I better remind our listeners that you're listening to Skywave Radio, and this is Digging the Dirt, the Allotment Show with Russ and Jake, and of course on our first show as well. So now another thing we're going to talk about is what's on the TV coming up. So I know you're a fan of Beech Grove.
Oh,
Jake.
yes, best gardening program I've ever seen. Wonderful.
It is, isn't it? And it's been going such a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it has.
But only fairly recently, I think, isn't it? On I might be wrong, but on like BBC One or BBC Two, it's on, isn't it? On a Sunday.
Yeah.
But I think they only started repeating it on there in the last few years, haven't they? Really?
Yeah. I think that's the way I got to know of it. But now I watch it on iPlayer on a Friday night.
So you catch it before me? Yes. That's cheated, Jake.
It is. The modern world.
It is. Yeah. As my son keeps telling me. Yeah. I just got used to, what's it called? Something plus. You see, I don't even know that. Mm-hmm. So for those who don't know, Beech Grove Garden, it's on, it's BBC Scotland, isn't it, programme?
Yeah.
It's been going incredibly, hasn't it, since 1978, I believe, one of the longest gardening programmes there. And so it's BBC Scotland repeated on BBC Two as well. And I think 18th of April is going to be the first one. So it's coming up this month, unless you tell me any different, Jake. I know you're a super fan of Beech Grove.
You're spot on there, yeah.
Is it?
I'm certainly a super fan of Jim McCall.
Yeah, what a top guy.
And brilliant musician as well.
Yes. Now, doesn't he play the accordion or something?
He does, yeah. Fabulous musician, as well as fabulous gardener as well, yeah.
Yeah, and not scared of getting his hands dirty.
Yeah, he's in his 80s and he still gets out there digging and doing the lot.
He does, yeah. And not scared to say what he's thinking either.
Dead right, right.
Which is how it should be,
yeah.
Really. So we got Jim McCall, who holds it all together. There's Jim McCurdy, Carol Baxter, George Anderson as well. Another great guy, isn't he?
Yeah,
up there.
Yeah, and Chris as well, isn't he?
And Chris Beardshaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a relatively newcomer, I think, the last 2 or 3 years, hasn't he? Really?
Yeah,
so,
I heard they put him on the show so that the English people could understand what was being said.
Was it? Have a representative from England. But the great thing about that, of course, is the Beech Grove garden is up in Aberdeen, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And if you can grow anything up there, I mean, there's no excuse down with us, is there, really?
Exactly.
Fantastic, really. So that is Beech Grove Garden. I believe it's on 7 p.m. Thursday, the 18th of April. And that's BBC Scotland, and it's repeated on the BBC. So you can pick that up on your iPlayer, as Jake has told us, and catch up and all that kind of stuff. So really worth a watch is that. And of course, Gardener's World is back as well. So Gardener's World has, I don't know how long's that been going for now, Jake. Do you know?
Oh, I'm not sure. It must be quite a while as well.
Yeah. I can't think actually, but we got Monty Don, of course, Adam Frost, Carol Klein, Nick Bailey. So that started earlier this month, didn't it? Now and they're only short programs, aren't they? I think last year there was a
they went
hour-long program.
Yeah, they went to 1 hour long programs, didn't they, for the main season? I think they probably will again this year.
Yeah, so they're starting off with these little short half-hour programs. And of course, Monty did a fantastic program on Japanese gardens, didn't he? I don't know if you saw that, Nick.
Oh, yes, it was wonderful. Yeah, yes. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and if there's any... See, Jake, what we should do here is... if there's any sponsors out there that want to send you and me to Japan for the blossom season... I think we should do that. So anybody wants to send Jake and myself over to Japan to follow the cherry blossom up through the country, wouldn't that be good?
That'd be. I think that would make an excellent show. So any sponsors out there, you know where we are.
Hopefully somebody's listening, and you know how to. Well, we'll tell you how to get in touch at the end of the show. Now, and the other thing, of course, on that, not just the cherry blossom, it was the moss, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, moss lawns where they were weeding out the grass from the moss.
Yes, I mean it's phenomenal, isn't it? Just the total opposite that we do here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and you look at moss in a totally different light, don't you now, really?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. In fact, one of the questions that came in this week was about removing moss from lawns. Oh. But after watching that programme, I think maybe we ought to remove the grass from the moss.
Listen, tell them not to bother. Just just nurture it. But it was just the care they take, isn't it? Everything.
Oh, meticulous.
Meticulous by hand, and the pruning as well of trees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible, really. All. So if people have missed that was Monty Don and his Japanese Gardens, I think was the title. Am I right, Jake?
Yep.
Get that on the iPlayer or whatever it is and have a look. I think there's only 2 programs, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, I believe it was. Yeah, but it was certainly worth a watch.
Yeah, terrific. So that's Gardener's World and Beech Grove Garden. Now, talking of gardens, we want to have a little segment on the programme about garden shows, garden events, and all that kind of stuff as well. So anybody out there that has been to some good shows can give us a few tips, and not just the big ones, you know, the nice local shows, the village shows, local gardens and stuff like that. That's really what we want to hear, isn't it?
The real gardeners.
Yeah. And so we've got a little list, I think, between us of gardens that are open or events that are coming up for April.
Yeah.
So I've got a few here that I've been made aware of. So starting off down in Cornwall, I've got the Cornwall Garden Society Spring Flower Show, and that's on Saturday the 6th and Sunday the 7th of April, and that's at the Royal Cornwall Showground. There's the Rare Plant Fair, and that's on at Evanley Wood Gardens. That's Northamptonshire, so that's probably not far from you, Jake. Is that right, Northamptonshire?
Yeah, not too far, about an hour away.
Yeah, that's the 7th of April. And then the posh ones, Jake, as I call them, the RHS Spring Launch. It's the Orchid Show, and that kicks off the season, if you like, of RHS shows. That's the 8th and the 10th of April. And they got floral displays there, of course, being the Orchid Show, and there's a plant sale on as well. There's talks on, workshops, demos as well, and that's at the RHS Lindley and the RHS Lawrence Hall down in Westminster in London, and that's the 9th and 10th of April. Now, have you got any shows coming up, Jake?
Yeah, I've noted a few. There's Harrogate Flower Show up in Yorkshire is the 25th to the 28th of April.
Terrific, yes, yeah.
There's the RHS Flower Show in Cardiff. That's the 12th to the 14th of April.
Yep.
Busy time at the moment. There's also Manchester Organic Gardener Society
right.
have got an event on the 13th of April.
Right. Now, I didn't know, because Manchester's not far from me, 40 minutes
Yeah.
away. So, that's the organic show, did you? Or organic gardeners show?
Yeah.
Ah, terrific. Oh, that's
So
good.
that'll be one for people who like to garden like I do, a bit like Monty, working with nature, as we both do.
Yeah, and as you should do, really, isn't it? Really.
Yeah,
Okay. And
definitely.
any more?
I think that might be just about it. There's a couple of sort of events during the month. There's Grandparent Gardening Week from the 1st to the 5th of April,
Oh, right.
which is to help children at schools and nurseries, etc., get into gardening with the help of grandparents.
Oh, terrific. You know
And
what?
then-
We always, when I was a kid, on a Sunday, we always used to go up to my grandparents. They were just the other side of Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
And my grandfather, he was worked on farms and all that kind of stuff, and was a gamekeeper as well.
Excellent.
Loved the countryside. And he was always, it seemed to be anyway, whatever the weather, he'd be sat outside the back step of the house there.
Yeah.
Always sat there. It was a south-facing garden.
Beautiful.
And bed of roses just
Oh,
over
my
the
favourite.
gate. And then
Yeah.
after that, it was just nothing more than his veg patch for the whole length of the rest of the garden there.
My kind of garden.
Yeah, and we'd always come back with, and they seemed massive. We'd always come back with something like a cabbage or a cauliflower, and they were absolutely, well, it seemed at the time, enormous things, you know. And, and it's little things like that stick in your mind, isn't it, really?
Absolutely.
And, gardening with grandparents. What a great event. So when's that on again, Jake? I haven't come across that.
1st to the 5th of April.
Great.
So if you're a grandparent and you've got grandchildren in a school or a nursery, go along and give them a hand to get their garden sorted out for spring.
Oh, terrific. Yeah. And, so I guess it's just ask the question at your local schools and see if they're doing anything for that event, really.
Absolutely, yeah. And we can't forget as well that April the 22nd to May the 5th is National Gardening Week.
Yes.
The RHS.
Yeah, absolutely, and raising a lot of good money for charity, isn't it, as well?
Definitely.
Yeah. So I think you mentioned the RHS Flower Show at Cardiff Castle.
Yeah.
Didn't you? 12th, 14th of April. It's the Newbury Garden Show. Again, the 13th to the 14th of April. That's the Newbury Showground. The Rare Plant Fair. That's on at the Old Rectory. That's Quennington. That's near Cirencester. That's the 14th of April. There's a garden show at Firle Palace. Firle Palace is near Lewes in Sussex, and that's Friday the 19th to Sunday the 21st. There's the Newark Garden Show, Newark Showground. There's the Plant Fair Road Shows. So there's a couple of those on in April. 21st of April at Hall Place and Gardens in Blexley in Kent. And Sunday the 28th of April at Arundel Castle in West Sussex. And you mentioned the Harrogate show, didn't you? 25th and 28th of April. So have you been to any of those before, Jake, or are they sort of new to you?
I haven't myself, but I'm certainly going to get out to more this year.
Yeah. I mean, that Harrogate one looks a good one. Have you been to any RHS shows at all?
I have, but I can't remember exactly which ones, but I have over the years.
Yeah. I mean, Tatton is fairly close to us, Tatton Park.
Yeah.
I think that's, when's that, June or July. And that's a great show. It's not too packed with people. I've never been to Chelsea. I don't know if you're that kind of a person, Jake, but it always seems a bit packed for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think they'd let me in with my accent anyway.
Oh, see, they're posh down there, Jake. You see, we'll stick to the ones up north. Eh? Tatton Park.
I've been to Gardener's World live a few times, and I used to go to the Grow Your Own veg show, but unfortunately that stopped a couple of years ago.
Oh, is that anything to do with the magazine, Grow Your Own magazine?
I believe it was, yeah.
Yeah. That's a good magazine, actually, isn't it? I enjoy that. Yeah, Gardener's World, that's the NEC, isn't it?
Yes.
NEC.
Yeah, good show that.
Yeah, I've been to that once, I think, and that was pretty good. Yeah. So, we'll try and get out, I think, to some of these.
Yes.
Over the season. I mean, you pick up some great tips, don't you?
That's
really.
what I love coming back seeing displays or even in show gardens thinking, oh,
Yeah.
that plant works perfectly with that, and think, oh, I can do that in my garden.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And it's just the odd little thing is that you pick up and you say, oh, that'll look good, and you can just give it a whirl, can't you? So
Yeah.
I tell you what I'm building at the moment, nothing to do with allotments, but an auricular theatre.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've always wanted one. So I've painted all the wood up. I'm just waiting for a good bit of dry weather to construct it in the back. And they're all growing away nicely in their terracotta pots. So we're going to give that a little bit of a whirl, really. So, right, just to remind everybody that you're listening to Skywave Radio. This is Dig in the Dirt, the allotment show with Russ and Jake. It's our first show. So we're kind of feeling our way at the moment. So if you can think of any topics that you want us to cover in forthcoming shows, just drop us a line. We give you all the contact details at the end of the show, and they'll be on social media as well. So something we wanted to include was a few questions, really, from listeners. So the first lot we've got through our little social media postings and things like that. So the first one I've got here, Jake, was from Estelle, who lives in Eccleston. That's a little village, not far actually from where I am, up here in Lancashire. And she says, how do you get rid of brambles? So she's got brambles down the bottom of her garden. I think it's in quite a rural area that she lives. How do you get rid of brambles?
Oh, well, the roots can go up to 6 foot deep. So I would say myself, I would just keep digging to weaken the roots. But if you're not an organic gardener, then the people would spray it with weed killer. But I prefer to just do it the natural way. Yeah.
Just weaken it. You're not going to get it all out, are you? In one go. It's going to be a number of years, isn't it, really, before you knock it on the head. But so just keep digging away, really.
Yeah.
And then the roots. What should we do with the roots when we dig them up?
Yeah, I'd probably burn them.
Burn them?
Or put them in the municipal waste bin.
Yeah, the sort of council green bin or whatever it is in your area. Yeah, because it gets up to a very high temperature, doesn't it, when they compost it? So
it does.
It won't carry through. So there you go, Estelle. Get your spade out and get digging, I think, is the advice there. Really.
Absolutely.
Now, I think this is one that you mentioned to me, Jake, which was, is it best to water every night for plants in pots or every 2 to 3 days?
That was from Michelle Williams.
Michelle, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you reckon to... What do you reckon to that? What's she growing? Do you know in pots?
I get the impression that she does a lot of pot gardening, which I do here.
Yes.
And my advice would be to give it a good thorough soaking at least once a week, rather than just tickling the top with water.
Yes. I like that phrase, tickling the top. No. Is that a Yorkshire saying, Jake?
It probably is.
We're going to get letters, you know that now.
Yeah, we probably are.
I'm sure you're not allowed to say tickle in the top on the radio, but there you go. We've said it numerous times now. So yeah, and of course the problem with, did you say water at night? It's not a good thing, is it, watering at night, especially at the moment anyway?
Well, I think when you water, you don't want frost to damage your plants.
Yes.
You want to make sure things are well drained, because overwatering can damage plants as much as underwatering.
Even more, can't it, really?
Yes.
Yeah. And certainly at the moment, I mean, I'm a bit further north, aren't I, than you? But there's a risk of frost, isn't there?
Yeah.
Into May, isn't there, really, to be honest. And with the weather what it is, I mean, you just don't know, do you, what it's going to do? I mean, back in February, we had, was it 20 degrees?
Oh, it was beautiful.
It was phenomenal, wasn't it, really? Yeah. But it seems after that, I don't know about you, it's been just a bit wet, really. Yeah. I was digging on the allotment yesterday. So, I think I mentioned about 3/4 of the way through all my raised beds. But nearer, there's a bit of hedge or tree cover towards the bottom of the allotment, and it doesn't get a massive amount of sun. And I'm going to have to leave those because it's a bit still a bit heavy going, you know.
Yeah, you can damage the structure, can't you, if you dig it while it's too wet.
Yeah, and we haven't had really hard frosts either.
No.
Well, certainly not here to break it up. So it's been a bit hard going. I don't know about yourself, but
Yeah.
but
In the style of Beech Grove, I practice mainly no-dig gardening now, so
Right,
that
yeah.
saves my back a bit.
Okay, so you just get a supply of compost then?
Yeah, I put a mulch down,
Yeah.
a couple of inches thick, sow into the mulch, and things seem to grow fine that way. And because I have a bit of a dodgy back anyway, it's
Right.
a good way for me to garden, or anybody who's got a lot of back trouble.
Of course, yeah. So you just top the beds up, and
Yeah.
from what I've seen and what I've read, it's pretty well. It's the way to go, isn't it? Really, it's pretty productive.
Yeah, it seems to have the momentum at the moment. A lot of people seem to be following the way of no dig.
Yes, yeah. And where'd you get your compost from then?
I make a lot of compost myself,
Right,
but I get guinea pig manure from a local guinea pig sanctuary. They're glad to have it picked up, but I also get manure delivered by local farmers,
Okay.
just for the price of shipping.
Yes,
So because everybody knows that you can never make enough compost.
No.
For what you need.
on your own plot. No, you
Yeah.
can't, can you? Did I hear you right then, Jake? Did you say guinea pig compost?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it will
Go on.
it will have to compost for at least a year before I use it on the beds, because there's a lot of straw and a lot of sawdust in there.
Right.
But I'll mix it up with a lot of green materials, because a lot of people struggle to find enough brown material to go in their compost.
Yes,
So
because you
this-
need
this
that
is
mix,
ideal.
don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Well, I've never heard of that before. And in fact, I've never heard of a guinea pig sanctuary before.
Yeah. There's a wonderful lady in Nottingham who has something like 300 guinea pigs that have been rescued, or people that just don't want the pets anymore.
Yes,
And
yeah,
she does an amazing job.
Oh, incredible. Well, she's got to have a shout out. Do you know her name?
It's Avalon Guinea Pig Sanctuary in Nottingham. So if anybody can contribute some money to help buy bedding
fantastic.
or food, please do.
Yeah, yeah. So do you take pretty much all their compost, or do other gardeners use it as well, or is it just you, Jake, in Nottingham that uses it?
There's a lot of people at the local allotment sites to where Avalon is that collect the guinea pig droppings as well. So it's not just me. There'd be far too much just for my plot.
Really? That it generates that much?
Oh, it does, yeah.
Does it really? Wow. Well, I've learned something there.
Right.
I've learned something there. Yeah, I'll have to look out for one up this way then, because we've
Yeah,
got
do that, yeah.
like you, we've got hedgehog sanctuaries. There's one in Chorley as well that do a fantastic work there. But okay, I'm on a mission now, Jake.
Excellent.
I'm on a mission. So, any more questions? Have we got any more questions from your side? So we've had brambles, we've had night watering and that kind of stuff. Anything else?
Ellen Wallace has sent in a question: how to grow parsnips. How do you grow yours, Russ?
I haven't grown them for about 2 years now.
Right.
You know, but I always get, and I think this is the general advice: get fresh seeds. So don't use last year's there.
Yeah.
So to make sure they're viable.
Yeah.
And from memory, from a couple of years ago, I didn't sow them until probably May time, you know. So a little bit later. So and that was outside, so the soil's nice and warm.
Yeah.
As I said, I haven't got a polytunnel or anything like that. And that's about it, really.
Yeah.
And you just leave them to it, and a great treat, of course, at Christmas.
Definitely. Roast parsnips are fabulous.
Yeah.
With myself, I used to grow them the traditional way, but last year I found a piece of just rough grass, put some cardboard down, put 3 inches of manure and compost over the top, sowed fresh seed into it, and if anybody looks on my Facebook page, I grew parsnips that were 18 inch long. So there's a lot of talking books about having a really fine tilth in order to be able to grow them, but I've found quite the opposite.
Oh, wow. Gosh. So that was a very different way, because everything I've kind of read, it talks a bit like carrots, really, very fine sort of soil, so the roots aren't kind of damaged and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a bit different. So they can see how you've done that from your Facebook
Yep.
site. And that is, Jake, can you give the address of that out?
If you search for Jake Kingfisher, or if you search for gardening tips from the Village Idiot, that's my particular gardening page that I use.
Gardening tips from the Village Idiot.
That's me.
Okay, there you go. Okay, well, we'll give that out again at the end, and we'll perhaps put our posts up there and stuff like that.
Wonderful.
So,
Yeah.
that's parsnips then.
Yeah.
So you can either do it Jake's way or the traditional way. So that'd be interesting, wouldn't it, really, to see when other
Definitely.
people have the success that you've had there. Sounds good.
Yeah, because I think with anything in gardening, there's always more than one way to do it, and people should do what they like and what works for them and their soil.
Yep, and it's trial and error, isn't it, with
Yeah.
all these things? And not everything works, does it, Jake? You know, we have our disasters. So
Yeah, last year carrots were a complete disaster for me, but I believe they were for Monty as well.
Well, I told you they are for me. I've never been able to grow them other than in pots, you know, and I still to this day don't know why, really.
Yeah.
Now, I've got one more question from my side, and that's Margaret, who lives up in Lancaster, so just up the M6 from here.
Yeah.
Margaret says she moved house just before Christmas. She started digging a small veg plot at the bottom of her garden, and she's found long white root-like things in the soil, about 4 to 6 inches long. Are they a problem? What should she do with them? I think I know what they are. What do you reckon, Jake, to those?
It sounds like bindweed to me. Is that what you think, Russ?
I think it's got to be, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And that's a pain, isn't it, to get rid of?
Oh, definitely. You keep digging and try not to break the roots. Get as much out as you possibly can.
Yeah, and I think whatever you do, don't, if you've got one, Margaret, don't put them in your compost bin.
Dead right.
Because it'll just contaminate everything else, and when you put it back on the ground, it'll just go, you'll spread it everywhere. So it takes a bit of getting rid of, doesn't it, that, actually?
Yeah.
I'm still finding it on my allotment, and a bit like the brambles, isn't it? Just keep digging away, stick it in your commercial, the council compost bin, and away to go. Good.
And I've got a very similar question to that, really. A different plant. Somebody called Joan Thomas has asked about how to get rid of honeysuckle. What would you think about that, Russ?
Honeysuckle. Well, you know, I love honeysuckle. I've got it in my back garden here. It can get a bit out of hand, can't it, really?
Yeah.
So you've got to be a bit ruthless with the secateurs or the loppers if it's that out of hand, isn't it? What do you reckon? And just cut it.
Yeah.
Don't hold back and cut it back. It'll survive, won't it? It's pretty hardy.
Yeah, it's pretty hardy. Yeah, I think it's a lovely plant, like you say. But if somebody wants to get rid of a lot of it, cut it back, dig it out. Another thing you can do is smother it. If you really want to get rid of it, cover it for about a year, and if it can't photosynthesize, it's going to kill it.
Yes, yeah, like any plant, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And that's a good tip, really. Yeah, or just thin it out and difficult without seeing how rampant it's gone, really. But just do a Monty on it. Get the loppers, get the secateurs out, and give it a good cut back. I think is the answer there. Okay, so keep your questions coming in. Jake and I will certainly try to answer them. If not, we'll if we have them in time, we'll certainly try and research them and get some answers for you. So really the last feature, Jake, of this show is what we can be doing in April. So I don't know what
busy time.
It is very busy, isn't it, really? So, I think we've got about 5 minutes left of the show. So it's a quick run through, really, what we can be doing for the month of April.
Right. Things I'd recommend doing are sowing sunflowers. I love them, and so do wild birds, garden birds, etc.
Good idea.
I'll be sorting out the pond, giving that a good clear out.
Have you got a pond, Jake, on your allotment?
I haven't, but at some point I'd like to. So, because frogs eat slugs as well, so that's another way of getting rid of slugs.
Yeah, that's a nice little project, Jake, for this year. A bit
Certainly
late maybe
is.
now for your frogs, but okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I'll be sowing things like courgettes, squashes, pumpkins. It'd be a good time if you want to do an asparagus bed. It'd be a good time to plant asparagus. Although you won't get a decent crop for probably 2 or 3 years from that. Pricking out seedlings, potting on, transplanting things like tomatoes in the greenhouse.
Yeah, that's right.
Sowing herbs, sowing beans, and giving the whole garden a good tidy up, really. And removing suckers from fruit trees is a good thing to do.
From the base of fruit trees there.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. Deadheading daffodils, so they can put the energy back into the bulbs.
Into the bulb, yeah, terrific.
And I would say, forget Santa and Christmas. The time now is to ho, ho, ho.
Jake.
Sorry, that was dreadful.
Are you going to do one of those every show now?
Oh, I am the village idiot, so I've got to.
There you go. That's our first one. So
what are you going to be up to then, Russ?
Well, I've got quite a lot of stuff in the propagator at the minute. So courgettes, cucumbers, tomatoes. Mm-hmm. So they'll want pricking out in a couple of weeks' time, just into pots, and just pot them on every so often. I will put some basil in and some chilies.
Lovely, yeah.
Don't know if it's a bit late for chilies, but I'll get them in the propagator when the tomatoes and all that lot have come out.
Yeah.
And of course, outdoors, you can start growing your beetroot.
Yeah.
Broad beans, I'm growing those. I think I mentioned at the top of the show in pots in the greenhouse, but I like to put them directly out as well, so we get a bit of a longer
good
season.
Idea. Successional sowing.
Yeah, and potatoes, of course.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
The lovely spuds.
Yeah, so today I picked up my Maris Pear. I grew those last year. I don't know if you've...
Oh, yeah.
Maris Pear. They're second earlies.
Yeah.
So they'll be chitting for a little while, and then probably the middle of April, something like that, in they go.
Yeah, I picked mine up today. I got Red Duke of York and Charlottes. And Sharpamiras are absolutely brilliant blight-resistant potatoes.
Yes, I've grown those before, Now, I think every gardener has this, where you dig your potatoes up, you think you've got them all. You know what I'm going to say, don't you? And then you dig in a plot where you haven't grown them for years. Yeah. And has that happened to you, Jake?
Yeah, it was happening today. I was clearing a bed for planting onions, and there was potatoes everywhere.
It's amazing, isn't it? How did you miss them? I don't know. So...
They're so small, some of them, it's impossible to get them all out.
Yeah. Well, Jake, that is it, I'm afraid.
Wow.
That's gone pretty quick. We've been nattering over the garden fence for an hour, I think now. The time has flown. I don't know about you, but I've enjoyed our first show here. Hope there's many more to
Thank
come.
You very much.
Now that's all the time we have on this month's show. The next show will be on Sunday, the 28th of April. And if you've got any gardening questions or any gardening tips, if you think Jake and I have got it wrong, or probably me.
And me.
Send us all your tips in, or any topics that you want us to talk about in particular. Just send them in, and you can either email, and that's skywaveradiouk@gmail.com. That's skywaveradiouk@gmail.com. You can message the Skywave Facebook page, or you can contact Jake direct on his Facebook page, which is, Jake, hit us with it.
Gardening tips from the Village Idiot.
Gardening tips from the Village Idiot. So if you look out for that webpage, and there's loads of stuff on there, isn't it, Jake? Everything you're up to.
And other people can put stuff on there as well.
Oh, terrific. And you'll see Jake's escapades chasing his polytunnel over Derbyshire. And if you find any bits of it, just let him know. He might be able to patch it up, hey Jake? I don't know. So that's all we've got time for on this show. So we look forward to your company in a month's time. We'll be talking about what we've been up to and what will happen in the month of May. Time's moving on, Jake.
Absolutely. It's a busy time of year for all gardeners.
It is.
Finally, a massive thank you to everybody who sent questions in this month. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jake, for your time as well. Happy gardening to you.
And you, Russ.
Okay. You take care. Bye now.
You. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Dig in the Dirt, the allotment show with Russ and Jake on Skywave Radio.